step. So what happens? He's delivered some bread and some cheese. Am I going too fast for anybody? He was simply delivering lunch to his brothers, and what happened? A giant raises up. It's another door. Another door. Why? Because anytime there's an adversary, there's a door close by to take you to transition into something greater. If he would have digressed instead of progressed and tried to kill the giant, if he would have ran home and cried about the giant, he would have missed his moment and never went through his door. It was an effective, promising opportunity. What happened? He slayed the giant, and then he never went back to tending sheep again. But it gets worse. What happened after that? He killed the lion. He got some promotions. Everything was going good for him. His life progressed. He took a step up one rung of the ladder. And what happened? We see that later on, Saul, the very man that loved him because he killed giants, was intimidated over the fact that he killed giants. Isn't it amazing that the same reason people love you today is the exact same reason they'll hate you tomorrow? But that's a side road all in itself. But it amazes me because the same man that gave him promotion and opened up the door tried to kill him 21 different times. What happened? He was living in a dark place, living in a cave, and to make matters worse, his best friend in the world, Jonathan, got killed. I can just hear him twiddling his thumbs and whistling, "Nobody knows the troubles I've seen." Talking about every time I get promotion, what's going on? Here comes a bigger giant. Here comes a bigger enemy. Here comes a larger adversary. I don't understand, God, because I felt like when I crossed over and transitioned and got through this one door, everything's supposed to be better. Why? It said for every door there are many adversaries. There are many adversaries. Not only was he in a cave fighting for his life, but then he had to contend with the people around him trying to talk him into just hiding instead of getting outside the cave and fulfilling his call. Does anybody know what it's like to be surrounded by negative people that don't believe in you, that just don't want you to go any further because they can't go any further? They could if they wanted to, but they don't want to, so they can't. So they'd rather keep you from going forward, so it makes them feel just a little bit better about themselves because you didn't come out of it, so they don't have to come out of it. And here's David in a situation where he has to come to understand, and I want you to watch this, that your friends are there to encourage you. Your family is there to humble you, but your enemies are there to promote you. Everyone needs a friend to encourage you, and you've got to have family. My mother still to this day tells me, just like she told me when I first started preaching, no matter where you go, son, don't forget your dirt. She still tells me that. No matter what you've done, no matter how many countries or whatever you've done or whatever opportunity you get, don't forget your dirt. Don't forget. Isn't it amazing how we have to be humbled by family? Because if we got encouragement all the time, we would think we're Superman and fly around, and eventually our cape would get caught somewhere and jerk us down to the ground. And when we finally hit reality, it would be far too harsh for us to get up and keep going. So we have to have family to humble us. But if we could ever come to the conclusion to realize the reason we have adversaries is because God is trying to indicate there's a door close by, that if you can make it through this test, there's something on the other side that will forever change your life. So that tells me that we can't ever run from a challenge. We can't ever run from a giant. We can't ever digress and stop going forward because it seems impossible. Why? Because there's a door close by. Is there anybody that wants to go through the door of your life and be able to shut it on your past and realize your future is much greater than anything you ever did in your past, so it can affect your present, and through the process you can become who you ought to be and who you're called to be? If you could simply understand the key to unlocking your door is realizing the enemy's not there to hurt you, but he's there to promote you. If you could be so convinced today, this morning, and understand that no weapon formed against you can prosper. Weapons might be formed and might look like the enemy's coming in, but even though they're formed, they can't prosper. They can't progress against your progress. They can't stop you from going forward. That's why it says no weapon formed. Otherwise, God would say there will be no weapons formed. But he didn't say that. He said for every weapon formed, it's an indication that greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. Somebody say, this is my door. This is my door. I really want to talk about 1 Corinthians 16:9, but I felt something different to do today. So I want us to look at 1 Kings chapter 19, beginning at verse 19, and talk about doors of opportunity. Before Moses could get out of Egypt into the promised land, he had to go through a door called Pharaoh. Before he could get out of the wilderness, he had to go through a door called the enemy of the Canaanites before he could get into the promised land. Isn't it amazing the doors we have to go through? I want to talk about something that this morning that I feel like will hit us no matter what level you're on at an interesting point. Somebody say, this is my door. You may not like me when we get done today, but I promise this will forever change you. This is a lesson I didn't read in a book. I had to learn myself through about 10 horrifying years. And you can see this is the oldest I've ever been. So for me to go through this, you can only imagine if you're in an immature state, it would be very difficult. 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 19, it tells it to us like this. So Elijah left there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, whose plowing was being done with 12 yoke of oxen, and he drove the 12th, and Elijah crossed over to him and cast his mantle upon him. Let's just take this verse by verse. I don't have a whole lot, so I'm not going to do the whole Bible today. You can breathe easy. Elijah, he was plowing, turning up the dirt with 12 yoke of oxen. Had the plow equipment. Sitting there, his only job, yep. Shh. Come on. Yep. Shh. Come on, oxen. Keep moving. Yep. Shh. His only job, plowing with 12 yoke of oxen in a field. When he's plowing, he's turning up the dirt, the soil of his life. It's frustrating when the thing you're following is dumber than you are. I know you're smiling, but you know it's true. And you can tell when the thing you have to follow is dumber than you are when you never leave the field and the scenery never changes. So here he is. And the only life he's ever known is in this little box called his field. The only thing he ever has known how to do is in this little field. His entire world is encompassed and following along something that's dumber than he is, but because it can carry more weight than he can, he's bound to simply taking orders and following directions. He's turning over the dirt of his field, and right in the middle of it, it said the prophet that God sent came by, and this is what I love. He walked through his dirt and cast a mantle, giving him a promise that there is something inside of him that could cause him to do more than what he's currently doing. Isn't it amazing how God will send somebody to even get up in the dirty places of your life to tell you that you have a promise, to give you encouragement, to give you hope? Is there anybody that's ever had any dirt? I know we got a whole bunch of squeaky clean people, but for all those that before you got saved, you have some dirt in your life, because I know you don't have any now, but for all those that knows what it's like to be in dirty situations and God still come and still sovereignly move in your life, can we just take a 5-second praise break, just lift up our hands and say, thank God that in the midst of my dirty case, God still came and talked to me. I'm thankful for that, so you have to forgive me. He came and cast his mantle being what his call was. He said, I'm giving you the ability, if you can follow me closely, to have your life pattern and the events to turn and shift, to take you out of the field, the very world that you've known, and take you into the unknown. What does verse 22, let's see, 20 say? That's where we're at. He left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, let me kiss my father and mother, and then I will follow you. And he, testing Elisha, said, go on back. What have I done to you? Settle it for yourself. What happened? He got a call. Praise to him. I'm going to ask you to give me a few more minutes. I see the clock. Just give me a few more minutes. I'm a little slow today, but I'm worth waiting on, I hope. Appreciate you guys. You're doing a great job. Here's what happened. Elisha got this mantle, and he began to run after Elijah. Because it tells me, just like the Bible says, he that finds a wife finds a good thing, right? The word finds actually means tackle. I know Cody back here could tell something about tackling, as he's a football player himself. You never tackle something unless it's moving, right? So if you find a wife, you've got to have a wife that's going someplace. That's a side note for all you single guys. RJ, I got you on my list. You got to find a wife that's going someplace. Elijah was a man, cast his mantle, and kept on walking. The real people you need to follow in life are not those that stand around looking at the scenery and looking for things, but those are the people that don't waste any time, understand their mission, do what they're called to do at that spot, and keep going forward. If you show me a leader that's doing this right here, you're showing me somebody that should not be a leader. I'm trying to talk to somebody today. You need to find someone in your career field that's going somewhere, that doesn't take time to get caught up in gossip and everything else going around. It doesn't take time to stop and smell the roses all the time, but has an agenda and is going places. I honor Elisha because he not only understood where the mantle was coming from, but he also understood the only way I can ever fulfill this is if I go forward and follow this man. But there's a problem with this. Because until you've reconciled the issues of your past, you'll never find your future. That's a tough one right there. And until you can get closure